Good afternoon, everyone. It's Joshua Barks here with Barks & Co. Real Estate at Keller Williams Realty Boise, and we have this month's market dynamics for Ada County's existing home sales for the month of July in 2020. So we can dive right into those numbers. I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible because we have a lot to cover. So without further ado, here is the overall market dynamics for July. The first thing that I notice is up here, of course, the market trends chart, the number of available homes for sale inventory, which has decreased again. We have 369 available homes in Ada County, which is just slightly above what we had in February of this year and a little bit under what we had in January. Now, if you remember or were here for my video back in February, the 337 here is the lowest that we've ever had in as far as back as we've been recording these numbers, which starts in the early 2000s. So 369 is extremely tight. What you can see for the same time last year, we had 951 homes, so more than double what we have going on this year. Now, one thing to note as well is with this black bar here, the number of closed sales and the gray bar, the number of pending sales, we actually are up year over year. So July of 2020 is higher than July of 2019. So we have 1,051 closed the month of July, whereas 907 closed this time last year. And we had 1,025 that are pending, whereas the same time last year we had 911. This is actually the first month so far this year in 2020 where the number of sales and the number of pendings is higher than where we saw last year. This again is likely due to the delayed effect of everything going on with COVID, where we are starting to see spring market conditions in early and mid to late summer. So I anticipate this to continue as we get further into the year. So maybe a little bit of a slowdown as kids get back to school, looking like early September right now, based on what the Boise School District is saying. West Ada is also saying that as well. We might see a little bit of a slowdown there with the number of homes coming on the market as people try to get settled to figure out what they're going to do there. Now, overall, what you can see here is with our demand and number of closed sales being so much higher than the number of available homes, we are seeing a lot of competition out there, and that is influencing prices greatly. In fact, we've come up 6.5% so far since the beginning of this year, with a new average sales price for Ada County at 386,108, which is incredible because just as last month, we had 4.4% increase as of January 1 this year. So we've come up almost actually more than 2% in just a month in the average sold price based on what's going on out there. And a lot of that has to do with those week by week supply versus demand. Inventory has been down so much. In fact, we've week over week had inventory decline for, I think, almost the 13th straight week, if I remember correctly. When we look at the statistics as a whole and break them down into the price categories, our days on market, which is this number here, has remained actually the same since January. 25 days on market, which is pretty average right now, though the inventory levels, again, are extremely low. Last month, we saw under 2 months supply all the way up to the 500,000 mark, though, as you can see, we're under 2 months all the way up to 800,000 now, and under 1 month up to the 600,000 mark, which is just absolutely astronomical because if you remember, they say that it's considered to be a seller's market. Anything less than 4 months supply, between 4 and 6 months, you start to get a little bit balanced, and then anything beyond 6 months is considered a buyer's market. And in fact, we had a little bit more of a balanced market. It was closer to 6 months last month, and now we're at 4.2, even for the million plus market. Now, one thing to note with that is I've been monitoring the million plus market very closely to see what's happening, especially just with these upper price points, because it's not always they just don't move as quickly as what you have in the lower price categories. Now, I've seen several million-dollar price homes just simply come off the market, no longer for sale. So I think that is likely influencing our inventory levels rather than actual sales. Now, the number of pendings, there have been several that have gone under contract, so that could be a misnomer there. But I just want to note that some of the million-dollar plus homes have just simply come off the market. Same with those above 800,000. I've seen some of those just come off the market, though some are still selling and things are going at a steady pace there overall. Now, with that average, our average asking price, the sellers are 612 for all of Ada County, our average pending being 441, and our average sold again being the 386. So we are still on a increasing trend. I do anticipate that to be likely close to that 10% that I was projecting all year by the end of the year, and we are right on track for that. So overall, man, interest rates again, one thing that I want to mention is they hit another all-time low this week and at 2.8 something, I believe, on a national average, which is incredible. So it's still a great time to buy, refinance, or sell and get something bigger. Now, one thing with inventory levels being so tight like this and being in such a competitive market, one question that I get all the time from sellers is, man, I would sell, but I have nowhere to move to. And hey, that's a valid question. I just want to let those people know there are options out there, and there are options that I've employed with my sellers as well, with whether it's having something contingent upon um, the seller finding a new place, or perhaps it's we have other options where maybe the seller gets to rent back the house for 2 weeks or maybe a month after closing so that they have time to find something, secure something, and move into things. We are seeing several contingent sales. In fact, I have had a few of those successfully get accepted over the last month or so, which is unusual for a competitive market, but there are things out there. So just if you're thinking about selling and you want to buy something else, don't be discouraged. There are options. Reach out to a real estate professional that you trust. I'd be happy to help answer some questions as well and kind of spitball ideas and come up with a great strategy to get you where you want to be, especially with everything that's happened this year. You might be realizing that it's time to get a new home and move somewhere else where you have the amenities that you want in the home that you're living in. So, another question that I get always that I want to touch on, of course, is when is the best time to buy or sell? And really, it just comes down to these two questions. Do you have a good enough reason to move? And then, if you do have a good enough reason to move, can you afford it? Does it make sense for you financially? And if you answered yes to both of those, well, then it might be a great time for you. And if that's the case, definitely reach out to a real estate professional that you trust or reach out to us as well. We're always here to help uncover what's going to be best for you in your specific situation. See how your situation and your goals fit into the market overall. As I've been saying, the market is still very strong and we're projected to continue to increase. So if you're waiting until prices die down to buy something, well, you might be waiting a while and interest rates are likely never going to be this low again. So you're going to be paying more on the back end if you're waiting to buy. If you are in a good enough position to make a move right now and you actually can afford it, affordability overall is still really great out there, especially because money is so cheap. So there just are so many options. And even with a competitive market, it doesn't mean that you every house is being sold cash. That is just absolutely not the case. And while there is a lot of cash out there, sure, I have successfully been able to get my buyers into competitive offer situations and secure the home with financing, in some cases with zero down. So just paying some closing costs, and that's just incredible. There are things out there, and if you're thinking about it, if you have a good enough reason for it and you think you can afford it, just reach out to me. My number is 208 914 1095. You can always email me or, of course, visit my website. All of that information is here on the screen. So we look forward to answering your questions and seeing you next week for the update on what's going on in the week over week numbers for the housing market. And we love getting your comments. Thanks so much.